Oh, no, no, no. Don't fight panic. The moment you set yourself to battle, you have accepted an opponent, a second presence, a power apart from God. And the very striving empowers it, gives it form, breath, weaponry. Now just try to follow this. Panic is only a suggestion parading as presence. If you wrestle the suggestion, you have lent it your strength. If you notice presence, you have withdrawn its only breath, the belief that something besides God is here. Yes, I know the modern moment. The mind races, the shoulders creep up, the breath shortens, the eyes dart, and every inner signal shouts, "Do something now." We will not analyze symptoms. Analysis is the world's way of fastening our gaze to shadows. We are here for a different order. We are here to recognize what is true. Please remember, reality does not require your rescue. It requires your recognition. God is. God is here. That is not a sentence to argue. It is a fact to notice, until the fact notices you and becomes the peace that speaks for itself. Now then, this is the great fork in the road, and it governs everything that follows. Begging God to fix a condition, or recognizing God as present being. Actually, there is no relationship between the two. They are entirely separate and distinct movements of consciousness. Petition keeps alive the sense that you and God are two, that fear has a life of its own, that help must travel across a distance. Recognition dissolves the distance, and with it the panic, because it yields to the one presence already here. Oh, do not try to get God to come into the room. Emmanuel means God with us now. This meeting, let it be understood, is not a theory hour. The proof, if there is any, will be the peace you can feel before anything changes outwardly. Not after the pulse slows, not after the circumstance rearranges itself, but before. Because peace is the cause, not the effect. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. And where there is liberty, fear cannot maintain a throne. There is, then, one prayer. Not a string of words, not a technique to bend God to your plan, but a recognition so simple the human mind resists it because it can neither perform it nor improve it. Father, thou art here. God is here. We are not using that to get rid of panic. We are yielding every other claim of presence to that one presence. Please remember this. Panic ends not by effort, but by absence. Its absence in the light of recognized presence. Be still a moment. Let the shoulders drop without trying to fix anything. Don't help God. Yield. Notice what is here. God is, and that's enough to know. God is. That's all. Thank you. Thank you. Now just try to follow this, and please remember it, because on this point, the whole work stands or falls. Petition assumes separation. Petition says, God over there, me over here, panic in between. That very assumption is the breath of panic. It is the rope by which it climbs back onto the throne. Recognition says, God is here. Not God arriving, not God intervening. God is here as being, as presence, as the very life of your life. Actually, there is no relationship between the two. They are entirely separate and distinct movements of consciousness. One keeps fear alive by honoring a distance. The other dissolves fear by acknowledging there is no distance. Now then, let us be very plain and not sentimental. Prayer is not getting God to do something. Oh, no, no, no. Prayer is the yielding to what is. It is the admission that the one fact is already present. God is, and that is enough to know. The moment you add, yes, but if you would only, you have slipped into bargaining, an admission that the present must be improved by a future act. That is petition, and petition secretly enthrones panic as a law with claims and deadlines. Recognition ends the claim by ending the believed interval. Please remember this. Not pleading, not arguing, not trying to calm the body by force, not seeking a sign. Every one of those is a confession that panic has statute and jurisdiction, that it must be met on its ground. We are not going onto that ground. Be still and know. That is the nature of true prayer. Stillness that knows. Not the stillness of apathy, not the quiet of exhaustion, but the hush of consent. Consenting to omnipresence as the only presence. And do not confuse recognition with positive thinking. Recognition is not painting a cheerful color over a frightened mind. It is not minting a new mental state. It is the laying down of mental manufacture altogether and consenting to the ever-present fact. God is being, not a thought about being. God constitutes peace. We do not generate peace to attract God. We rest in God and find that peace is already the climate of this presence. You will notice when you try to beg, the heart accelerates. When you argue, the breath becomes thin. When you seek a token, the eyes strain outward. That is the physiology of separation. But when you yield, Father, thou art here. Something in you stops measuring. The inner gaze turns from effects to cause, and the panic that shouted as if it had title begins to whisper and then vanishes, because no second presence is being acknowledged. So let us adopt this distinction as law within us. Petition keeps the sense of separation alive. Recognition dissolves. Now just try to follow this. Panic arrives as if it were the only thing in the room. It strides in without knocking and begins to narrate, projects, predicts, paints futures with no God in them. This will happen. That will fail. There is not enough time, not enough breath. It demands the center seat. It says, look at me, measure me, argue with me. Worship my timetable. And the moment you give it that attention, it borrows your eyes, your pulse, your language. It cloaks itself in your chemistry and then claims your authority. Oh, no, no, no. Please remember this. Panic is not a presence. It is a claim of presence. It has no life of its own. It is suggestion pretending to be environment. How does it seem to gain power? Only because we have empowered it. We supply it with belief and then call the result body. We feed it attention and then call the noise mind. We let it sit on the throne and then rename the usurpation circumstance or fate. After we have endowed it, we bow to it. We say, my nerves, my condition, this situation. Do you see the trick? First we hand it our scepter. Then we kneel to the scepter and marvel that it commands. Please remember, what you behold as power you have, in that beholding, commissioned. Now then, make the non-dual pivot and let it be final. If God is infinite presence, and God is, where is there room left over for a second presence called panic? Actually, there is no relationship between infinity and a rumor. They are entirely separate and distinct orders. Presence is fact. Panic is suggestion. God really is not a power over panic. God is that which ensures panic is not a power. Light does not overcome darkness by wrestling. It reveals that darkness never had substance, only the absence of recognition. So with panic. When the one presence is recognized, the claim collapses for want of recognition. Do not mistake sensation for authority. The body may tremble. Let it tremble if it will. The mind may race. Let it run a little if it must. Neither is a law, neither is a prophecy, neither has a spiritual mandate. They are weather, not government. Who decreed that a fast heart is an omen? We did, and then we bowed to our own decree. Be still and know. Stillness is not the absence of vibration. It is the absence of concession to a second presence. Please remember this. Sensation reports, but it cannot rule unless you enthrone it. We are not gathered to win an argument with panic or to label it with clever names. Analysis will rather produce more furniture for its stage. Our work is simpler and surer. Remove the throne. How? By returning consciousness to the one presence. Father, thou art here. Not spoken to bring something in, but to yield every other claim out. As you stand in that recognition, not straining, not bargaining, the counterfeit cannot maintain position. It starves because its only food was your divided gaze. So in the instant of alarm, do not crown it by measuring it. Do not confer titles, emergency, crisis, attack. Turn, not out there, not up there. Turn within to the fact that is present. God is here. God is presence, and that presence constitutes peace. The so-called panic is only a rumor knocking at a door that has no handle from the outside. Do not open. Recognize. Yield. And you will find the room is already full, filled with the one, quiet, triumphant presence that needs no defender. God is, and that's enough to know. God is. That's all. Thank you. Thank you. Now then, just try to follow this, because it is the heart of the matter, and it is wonderfully simple. There is one prayer, only one. Father, thou art here. God is here. God is. God is, and that's enough to know. Do not embroider it. Do not renovate it. Do not try to power it with your emotion. Whisper it if you must, but better still, let it whisper itself in you. Father, thou art here. That is not asking. Oh, no, no, no. That is not pleading for a change of weather in your nerves. That is the recognition of presence as presence, peace as being. God does not give peace. God is peace. And when you recognize God here, you have not asked for a product. You have yielded to the presence that is itself the peace. Actually, there is no relationship between this recognition and the old petition. They are entirely separate and distinct. Petition says, I lack, send. Recognition says, I am in and of that which never withholds, because it is itself the wholeness. Please remember this. Every time you tack on a reason, because I can't breathe, because the meeting starts in 5 minutes, because I am alone in the night, you have left recognition and returned to negotiation. Lay down the reasons. Lay down the stories. Lay down the bargains. If you will only, I promise I will. Oh no, this is not commerce. This is consent. There are prohibitions that keep this prayer pure. Do not add fear's narrative. It is only bait to bring you back to measuring. Do not negotiate outcomes. God is not an agent adjusting externals to your diagram. Do not time the prayer. It's been 30 seconds. Why isn't it better? Do not check your pulse to see if God arrived. Please remember, measuring is the sacrament of separation. The very act of peeking to see if it worked enthrones a second presence and invites the counterfeit to resume its speech. Be still and know. Let knowing be the act and the outcome. Now watch what happens to identity when this prayer is honored. You cease being a frightened organism trying to outwit a symptom or a calendar. You are not a bundle of nerves on a planet spinning through hazards. You are consciousness aware of God, and in that awareness you find you are held, safe by virtue of being, not by virtue of circumstances performing to your plan. The I that panicked is revealed as a mask. The I that knows, Father, thou art here, is the son of God's awareness, heir to peace, native to rest. Please keep this practical, or it will drift into lovely phrases and leave you in the old theater. In the grocery store when the line stalls and the nerves wish to prophesy. In the car at the red light when the heart drums its little sermon. In the 2 a.m. hour when the room feels too small. Silently, instantly, without drama and without display, let the inner word take its seat. Father, thou art here. God is here. Not to bring something in, but to yield everything else out. No closing of eyes is needed, no posture, no performance. Just the inward consent to the already present fact. Stay with it, not by strain, but by refusal to accept a second report. Let it be the only fact you accept until the acceptance becomes feeling, and the feeling becomes silence, and the silence is peace. Then go on about your business in that peace, and you will discover that the business goes on in peace. God is here. God is. God is, and that's enough to know. God is. That's all. Thank you. Thank you. Now then, let us do this together, right here, because principle must be lived or it remains a slogan and will fail you when you most need it. Please remember, this is not a technique to overcome panic. It is the ceasing of resistance to the presence that is already here. Relaxation is not a lever. It is consent. It is how we stop intruding upon peace with our frantic management. Now just try to follow this. Step 1. Stop the struggle. Oh, no, no, no. Do not wrestle the thoughts. Do not chase them down the hall, and do not hire more thoughts to argue with them. The moment you engage, you have acclaimed them as power. Struggle is a confession. Struggle says, I acknowledge you, I fear you, I must defeat you. Be still and know. Let the wave pass without naming it me. You are not disloyal to safety by refusing to fight. You are loyal to the one presence by declining to crown a second. Step 2. Physical yielding without superstition. Gently, simply, let the forehead soften. There is no theology in that, only the end of frowning at God. Unclench the jaw. Release the tongue from the roof of the mouth. Let the shoulders hang their armor on the nearest hook. Let the abdomen ungrip. Oh yes, that little guard who thinks clenching is prayer. Release it. Let the hands rest open. Permit breath rather than take breath. But please remember, we are not manipulating matter to get a result. We are ceasing resistance to the peace that is already the atmosphere of presence. Actually, there is no relationship between body tricks and spiritual realization. They are entirely separate and distinct. This yielding is merely the sign that we are not trying to help God. Step 3. Return to the recognition. Here and now, God is. Not loudly, not as a magic charm, but as a quiet inner knowing repeated until the mind drops its measuring cups. Father, thou art here. Here and now, God is. If a plea tries to attach itself, so that I can calm down, notice it and let it go. We are not getting, we are yielding. God is, and that's enough to know. God is, that's all. Step 4. Let the storm talk without answering it. Panic will present images, headlines, calendars, medical dramas, personal prophecies. Let them parade without saluting. Do not debate. Light does not enter the courtroom of darkness to argue a case. Stay with presence. Hold to the recognition like a quiet flame that neither flares nor hides. You are outgrowing the theater by sitting with the only fact in the room. Step 5. Watch the fruit, and watch it rightly. The first evidence is not a rearranged circumstance. The first evidence is the peace that passeth understanding. It does not consult the clock. It does not ask the body for permission. It arrives because it was never absent. In that peace, the body often resumes its normal function. The meeting goes as it should. The timing surprises you with ease. But please remember, those are effects, not proofs demanded in advance. If you require them as proof, you have returned to measurement and revived a second presence. Seek first the kingdom, the felt nearness, the hush of communion, and all these things are added unto you as byproduct, not by bargain. So we sit, or stand in the grocery line, or pause at the red light, and we do this very thing. We stop wrestling. We yield the body from its little vigil. We return to the inner word. Here and now, God is. We let the storm say its piece without reply, and we notice the peace that notices us. My peace. My peace. Then go on, not triumphant over panic as a conquered foe, but quietly triumphant in the realization that there never was a second presence to conquer. God is here. God is. That's enough to know. Thank you. Thank you. Now then, just try to follow this, because here is the point at which many lose the fruit of their own realization. You cannot rest in presence and at the same time consult panic for safety instructions. Actually, there is no relationship between the two. They are entirely separate and distinct. One is the recognition of God as the only presence and power. The other is the superstition that fear can guide you to peace if only you obey its checklist. Oh, no, no, no. Please remember this. Mixed reliance is the altar at which panic is daily recrowned. Let us name the mixtures of our day so we do not baptize them as wisdom. Endless checking, refreshing the email, the news, the bank balance, the weather, believing that the next update will grant you the permission to relax. Doom scrolling, letting other people's alarms become the liturgy of your own mind. Reassurance seeking, circling the same questions with friends until their "it's okay" becomes a substitute God. Compulsive controlling, rearranging chairs on a deck you fear is sinking, as if rearrangement were salvation. Rehearsing worst cases, composing tragedies preemptively to buy a false sense of readiness. These are not prudence. They are divided allegiance. They ask panic to be prophet and priest. Now hear me gently, for this is not a call to impracticality. Practical steps may be taken, Appointments may be made, calls returned, plans adjusted. But please remember, the power is not in the steps. The power is in the presence realized. Do the steps simply, without homage to fear, without the inner bow to a second presence. Make the call in peace. Send the email in peace. Set the calendar in peace. And if the peace is not yet felt, be still first, even for half a breath, until the motive is yielded. Be very clear, you are not using presence to succeed at panic's program. You are abandoning panic's program to stand in presence. You cannot serve God and mammon. You cannot serve God and panic. One must make a choice of one or the other. Rarely will the right results come from the combination of them. The compromise promises just a little peace now, and the invoice arrives later as deeper unrest. Please remember this as spiritual hygiene. Either panic is a power to be obeyed, or God is the only power to be recognized. There is no stable peace in the truce. So set a seal upon the heart. Make this inner vow now, without display, without drama, as quietly as you breathe. I stand single-pointedly with God's presence. I do not consult panic as an authority. Let that be your law in the grocery line, at the midnight hour, in the meeting, in the doctor's office, in the home. When the hand reaches for the phone to check again, let the heart reach first for the word, Father, thou art here. And then act or do not act, but act from peace and not from fear's orders. This singleness is not harsh. It is gentle as light. It does not fight a second presence. It refuses to invent one. And in that refusal, the false king finds no throne, no scepter, no subject. God is here. God is peace. God is, and that's enough to know. God is. That's all. Thank you. Thank you. Now then, let us plant our feet on an authority not of personal resolve, not of human will, but of the word that speaks itself across centuries and still arrives as living assurance. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation, or distress, or persecution, or famine? For I am persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities. Now then, just try to follow this, because without this safeguard, the whole harvest is scattered by the first gust of vanity or sympathy. Enter into thy closet. That is not poetry, that is instruction. It means turn from the stage to the sanctuary, from performance to presence, from telling about God to being still in God. Please remember this. The healing work is communion, not exhibition. Actually, there is no relationship between inner realization and outer display. They are entirely separate and distinct. The one yields to the Father, which seeth in secret. The other recruits an audience and calls it reassurance. Oh, no, no, no. Do not perform your healing. Do not narrate your panic as if the drama could deliver you. Do not display your progress as if applause could mature it. Do not dramatize symptoms to collect pity. Pity will nourish the very sense of a second presence you are renouncing. Do not boast of peace in order to hear yourself say you have it. The speaker becomes the doer, and the doer becomes anxious to maintain a show. Please remember, every announcement re-centers the personal self as cause, and the moment I becomes the operator, the hush departs, and measurement returns. What then is secrecy as practice? When panic makes its bid, do less explaining. When the hand reaches for the phone to write the long report, let the heart reach first for the word, Father, thou art here. When the impulse to post arrives, Friends, pray for me, it's bad. Be still. Not because friends are enemies, but because public conversation is not the same as secret communion. Do less defending of yourself. Do less rehearsing of worst cases as if they could purchase safety. Quietly recognize presence and let that be enough. God is here. God is. That's enough to know. Humility is the channel of this secrecy. Be willing to say within yourself, I do not know. I do not know how to calm a body. I do not know how to outthink a fear. I do not know how to manage tomorrow. Good. Be grateful if you have no understanding, for His understanding is infinite. Let that understanding be the understanding operating as you. My kingdom is not of this world. It does not operate by publicity, by polling, by consensus. It ripens in silence, and its fruit appears of itself, openly, but not performed. Why does this hiddenness stabilize you? Because it withdraws the work from the winds of praise and pity, from the social reinforcement of fear and pride. The more hidden the root, the steadier the tree. The Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. Not with medals to the ego, but with the simple, solid peace that does not need defending, and with outward harmonies that arrive as effects, not as billboards. So keep the door of your closet on its hinge. In the meeting, on the sidewalk, in the 2 a.m. hour, slip quietly within and say nothing to the crowd of thoughts. Father, Thou art here. Do not perform. Yield. Let presence do the revealing. God is, and that's enough to know. God is. That's all. Thank you. Thank you. Now then, just try to follow this, because here is where the work leaves the emergency room and becomes life. An episode of calm is not the goal. It is a glimpse. Please remember, a glimpse is not a principle understood. If you only touch presence when alarms ring, you teach yourself that God is a crisis instrument. Oh, no, no, no. God is being, not a button. Lasting freedom is the recognition that presence is constant, that peace is the climate of being here and now, and that our practice is simply to notice, often, before anything seems to need fixing. So let us make a rhythm, not a regimen. Communion, not calendarized piety. Before the email, God is. Before the phone, God is. Before you rise from bed, before you turn the key, before the meeting begins, slip into the inner word without display. Father, Thou art here. Not to purchase insurance for the day, but to yield to the fact that is the day's very substance. 2 seconds, 5 seconds. A pause that is not measured because measuring belongs to separation. Just the quiet willingness to let presence be the first movement of consciousness. Do this not as a charm against trouble, but as an honoring of what is already true. And then, when the faintest dread moves, oh yes, that little scout that tries the door, do not ask, how do I stop this? There is no technique. There is recognition. The first movement is the only movement. God is here. Stop there. Do not add conditions. Do not lean forward into the future. Do not look back to inventory yesterday's victories or failures. God is, and that's enough to know. Be still and know. If the mind wants to check whether it's working, please remember, checking is panic's liturgy. Return to the one wordless assent. Watch how the outer life reforms itself, not by your cleverness, but by the quiet law of consequence. Decisions that were tangled become simple because you are no longer asking fear to be counselor. Conversations soften. You answer what is asked rather than what you anticipated in dread. Sleep comes like a friend because you do not audition tomorrow all night for safety. These are effects, not trophies. Do not wear them. Do not advertise them. Let them appear as fruit that cannot help but grow from a well-watered root. Set your expectation rightly and remove the drama. Suggestions may return. Let them. Their return is not your failure. It is your invitation. Each knock at the door repeats the same curriculum. Will you entertain a second presence or recognize the one? Do not vary your answer. Do not make a story of recurrence. Do not despair at progress and relapse. These are the world's scales. We are disciples of presence, and in presence there are no grades, only yielding. So carry the peace out with you as atmosphere, not as achievement. Let the day be punctuated with quiet consent. God is. Until the punctuation becomes the grammar, and the grammar becomes the language you live in without trying. Then, whether the news is loud or the room is still, you will find that the center does not move because it is not yours to hold. It holds you. God is here. God is. That's enough to know. God is. That's all. Thank you. Thank you. Now then, just try to follow this, and please remember it as you go, because this is the thread that runs through the whole work without a knot. Not fighting, not begging, not bargaining. Recognizing. Not wrestling a wave, not pleading for weather to change, not striking a trade with tomorrow. Simply yielding to the presence that is already here, letting peace be the primary healing, and the rest its quiet consequence. God is, and that's enough to know. Be still and know. We are not trying to make a peace or hold a peace. We are consenting to the peace that is being itself. Oh, no, no, no. Do not add a second presence to correct a first. There is only one presence, and when that is recognized, panic's claim dissolves for want of belief. Now then, carry this with you, not as a phrase borrowed from a teacher, but as your own realization. The presence is within you and available to you, not through personality, not by way of any human voice, but by your own surrender to truth. Actually, there is no relationship between personal authority and spiritual authority. They are entirely separate and distinct. The authority is the principle. God is. You can count on that because it is not opinion, not mood, not luck. It is law, spiritual law, that reveals itself as peace. And in that peace, the outer adjustments appear by grace. Let us be still together for a moment, right here where you are, and let the words lead you only until the silence takes over their work. God is. Let it sound within. God is here, not coming, here. God is within, not a guest, your very life. God is all, not something among other things, all. Be still and let those words fall from speech into felt awareness. God is. God is here. God is within. God is all. Let the mind cease checking. Let the body rest from proving. Let the will retire. Father, thou art here. My peace. My peace. Please remember, this is not a moment to be admired and lost. It is the beginning of your default consciousness. the unforced habit of recognition. On waking, God is. At the threshold of work, God is. Before answer, before action, God is. In the hallway, in the line, in the night watch, God is. Not as a charm, not as protection purchased, but as the fact you live from until it becomes the first awareness and the last. The punctuation that turns into grammar, the grammar that becomes the language you are without trying. Let it be so steady that when suggestion knocks, it finds no vacancy because the room is already filled. Go now, without display, without dependence, without fear. Keep the work in secret. Let the Father which seeth in secret reward you openly with the simple, durable peace that does not need witnesses. Do not wait for a better hour. Oh, no, no, no. Begin with the breath you are now taking. God is. And as you go, know that this is reliable because it is principle, not personality. Presence, not performance. God is here. God is within. God is all. God is, and that's enough to know. Thank you. Thank you.